It'll be hot.
There's also thunderstorms this week.
Oh, that would be nice.
Now now that you reminded me yesterday that the LRT is going to be down for 2 weeks, so that means I'm going to be biking to work.
Oh.
So I've made the executive decision that on days where there's rain, I'm not going to be going to work.
Yep.
I'm going to be working from home.
As is your goddamn right.
Because
I'm swearing already. I'm sorry.
Ejected from YouTube.
Let's not do that.
Don't worry, we're not even monetized.
Yet. Hopefully, maybe one day. Who knows?
One day. My commute to work with the LRT is already long enough. Yep. If I don't have the LRT, it literally goes, I think it's almost 2 hours.
Yeah.
No, maybe an hour and 40 minutes to an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Without the LRT.
Yeah, we have, Ottawa is great, she says sarcastically. The light rail transit system we have here is a
joke.
It's a point of contention for a lot of people in the city, to try to put it diplomatically.
Yeah.
Because the system was put online with minimal testing.
Too early.
And the testing was only done for 9 days in September. And then when we had our first winter storm, everything shut down. Anyway, it's been
a drama.
Yeah.
For multiple years now.
Yeah.
It was late.
Very
be delivered, years late to be delivered.
Or do we know why they're shutting it down for 2 weeks?
Apparently it's regular maintenance, which is fine. When that happens, work needs to be done on the lines.
I get that.
That makes sense. It's just frustrating because it's
But I don't understand. I don't know any other place that would require to literally shut down the entire thing for 2 weeks. They're
not shutting down the full thing. They're only shutting down half of the line from Tiny's Pasture to Rideau.
Oh.
And then they're doing rail replacement from there. So you can actually get on the train at U of O.
Oh.
And go from there. You'll be fine.
Okay.
Yeah. However, for those of us who live in the western part of the city, getting on at Tiny's Pasture.
So they're not doing anything?
They're doing a rail replacement bus. However, the rail replacement bus is so slow.
Yeah, very slow.
And I don't really want to go on too long with municipal drama, but essentially they replaced the dedicated bus lanes with the train line.
Yeah.
But then when the train goes out of service, which is a pretty regular thing,
the bus have to go through the same traffic or the same streets as normal traffic, which just makes it horrible.
Anyway, needless to say, I'll probably be following your example and working from home at least a day or two. During the
I have to go
shutdown.
to the office at least 3 days this week, so I'm gonna, doesn't matter what I like, but I've noticed that at least I think it's supposed to be sunny tomorrow, so I should be okay. But then on Tuesday I saw that it was gonna be a thunderstorm.
We'll see what happens.
I'll see. But I do have very understanding and wonderful employers, so I'm not too worried about that. And I can still do most of my work as long as I show up at least 1 or 2 days a week. Minimum.
Yeah, I have a coworker who lives kind of in this general direction, and so I'm gonna ask her if it's possible that I catch a ride 1 or 2 days, but we'll see. Again, at the same time though, no big rush. I am currently, my whole personality outside of knitting and my friendships and my family is the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas.
Oh!
So right now, it's...
fully consumed by literature at the moment.
I'm fully consumed by literature at the moment, and if it means that I have to spend, instead of taking an hour and 10 minutes on transit, if it's an hour and a half on transit, well, I'm going to be reading anyway.
Oh, no.
Unfortunately, I can't do that.
Do you get motion sick like me? Yeah.
It's motion sickness, but on steroids.
It's
I can't even
being seasick, but everywhere on land.
That doesn't sound like a good
here's
time.
the funny part.
Not.
I don't have motion sickness on a boat.
Stop.
None. I have been on boats before. I don't know. So on a boat, I am totally fine.
Funny.
But the second I'm in a car, so in the train, I have no problem because it's a straight line. It doesn't. But I don't know. And again, if I'm in the car, the back seat is the problem. The front seat is fine. Obviously, if I'm driving, I'm fine. But it's the back seat.
Hi, Lexi!
All the way from the UK, I believe.
Oh, really?
What? That's awesome. But yeah, so...
that is so interesting because...
It's very annoying, honestly, because it means I can't knit. Technically...
You can't knit in the car.
I can knit stockinette if I'm not looking,
but
I can't concentrate.
For me, it's the phone. I can knit. If I'm in the car, but I can't look at the pattern on the phone.
Nope.
Or the pattern at all. I can't be reading.
Same. I can't be reading at all. Like, no reading whatsoever. I can listen to music. So usually what I end up doing is just listening to podcasts. Like, I'm very much into My Favorite Murder. For anybody who knows it's literally just two girls, like, talking about a specific case somewhere in the world. And the first 25 minutes is just them bantering, like we do kind of here. But then afterwards they get into it and they just... Like, it's just entertaining. Honestly, it's not... Like,
My Favorite Murder or Murderer?
No, it's My Favorite
Murder. That would be even darker if it was My Favorite Murder.
No, it's literally My Favorite Murder. And they don't only do murder. They do catastrophe. They do survivor stories. They do, like, a lot of different things, which is really fun. No, I enjoyed it very much. Like, the last one was actually the Halifax explosion.
In 1980?
I think it's 1917.
I learned about that on a history minute.
Right? So but they go into, like, deep into it, and they give you, like, although it's funny because I was a little miffed with that one because I know the history very well, and so for anybody who remembers the Heritage Minutes,
if you're Canadian,
if you're a Canadian, there was one about the Halifax explosion, and it was literally essentially the one of the I think it was a telegrapher.
Yeah.
So he stayed behind to warn the train to not come in. Yeah. So that they would not be caught in the chaos and everything.
Essentially, what happened in 1917 was a gunboat in the harbor that was full of ammunition was hit by another boat because it, like, didn't see that it was...
Yeah, essentially one of them was in the wrong lane, and...
It produced an explosion that, like, rivaled the atomic bombs in the Second World War.
It's considered the largest...
worst maritime disaster in modern history. Because Halifax is shaped like a bowl, it decimated the city, and the train lines that were coming in at the top of the bowl... one of the telegraphers in the city stayed behind
to warn them.
And
trains. Unfortunately, he died doing that, right? So, like, that was one of my favorite facts. Not the fact that he passed away, but the fact that he was so heroic. And they didn't mention that in the episode. And I was like, what? I was not happy about that one. I was like, come on! But they did mention a few of the residents and people, like one of the firefighters who, I didn't know his story, who actually survived the explosion. He was one of the first responders on the scene. Not only did he survive, apparently when he was in the truck when the explosion happened, everybody who was out, so all the firefighters who came with him were out, and they all died. He's the only one who survived. And I guess he survived because he was in the truck. He got blown up, and then apparently when he woke up, he had the steering wheel in his hand.
Oh.
And that's it. Like, and then one of the girls in the podcast is like, "What do you mean? Like, he's still inside the truck?" No, just the steering wheel in his hand. And I'm like, "Oh my god!" That's like
the rest of the truck was gone.
Yeah, he held on to the steering wheel so hard, and I think it was like he kept walking with it in his hand. Like, I have a feeling it was like just maybe the trauma, the shock. But, like, I mean, you know, I wasn't there, but it was actually interesting to hear it from that perspective because it's true. It's chaos, and then I didn't know that, for example, after the explosion, there's that huge tsunami that comes in.
And it was also in the winter, so everything froze.
They also had a snowstorm, like something like 2-3 days later. It's like, oh my god,
Halifax catch them, right?
Can you just stop nature, please?
I mean, even today I've never been to Halifax, but even today you go to Halifax and they're just like,
it's cute.
I want to. It's on my bucket list. They're like, oh man, yeah, no, winter here sucks.
Oh no, I've actually been to Halifax, and it's such a beautiful city. I love it, but you can actually still kind of see some of the scars of the explosion, which is like, you know, it's heavy to watch, but also it's good to know these things and, like, understand these things. But it was, I like this podcast because it kind of, like, sometimes it's screwed up things, but, like, there's also a lot of historical things. Like one of the girls is obsessed with Victorian England, so there's a lot of, like, cases from Victorian England, and I didn't really know anything about that, but I loved it.
I was gonna say, like, the kind of podcast that you're listening to is
the only one.
A departure from what I'm listening to. No such thing as a fish.
That's a good one. I like that one.
Which is just a comedy show full of, like, ridiculous facts and comedians talking about
like
it.
That. Yeah,
I love that podcast.
99% Invisible is another one if you like facts that are fun.
I do like that.
That one's a good one. Yeah. I listen to a lot of Formula One podcasts, a lot of Game of Thrones podcasts. I am so
not surprised.
And I listen to a bajillion different history podcasts.
history podcasts.
That's the thing.
You pick a period in history, I'm probably listening to a podcast.
Do you listen to a podcast called Who Did What Now?
No, it's in my queue to start listening to, though.
Yeah.
Because I have so many that I'm listening to. I'm listening to through the back catalog of one before I start listening through the back catalog.
I follow the creator of Who Did What Now on TikTok and Instagram, and they have such a nice podcasting voice. Sounds like
Lexi says, sounds like Carine definitely knows more about Victorian England than I do. Can you please do a random podcast
if we're talking,
that you know?
None, but like I know some of the, like, not necessarily that I know, but I've heard through the podcast, I heard like some of the like older what do you call it, like murders that happened or cases that happened that were either unsolved or like just like some. I think to this day one of my favorite ones, I forgot the name of this guy, but it's this random dude. This is just funny, who during Victoria, the Queen Victoria's reign, he actually sneaked into the palace multiple times and was never caught. What? Every time they kind of just like, wait, what? And he's this young, he's not even that old. Like, he was I think he was like a teenager when he started, and he just literally did it for shits and giggles. Like, there's no, like, he just did it because he wanted to, like, prove that he could do it. I forgot his name. They actually gave him a nickname. But, like, it was so funny because he would just break in. I may be mistaken.
Didn't take anything, didn't do anything, just
that was not the
in.
point. But he actually broke it into, if I'm not mistaken, he went into her chambers. Like, he actually got all the way to, like, it gets a little messed up. And I think it's funny because for a lot of people, at first, like the servants or whatever, they thought it was a ghost or they thought it was, like, a spirit. And then they realized this is a human being who's just being a, you know, like who's just trying to, like, he's literally just, he's just trying, I think he was just like seeking the excitement of like trying to break in somewhere. Yeah. He didn't, like, it was not about,
it was an adventure
anything
thing.
Other than just the thrill of getting in there. To this day, it's one of my favorite facts because I find it like hilarious. And this guy's just like, I'm going to do it. And he did it. Like, he sent letters, like, he was almost like a stalker. Like, I think that's what they called him, stalker or something. And essentially, I think throughout his life, he did it, like, multiple times. And he would go on hiatus for a while, and then he'd do it again. Like,
gotta keep him on their toes.
His name is Edward the Boy Jones.
Yes! That's it! It was so... I love that story so much. It makes me happy. And they actually did an episode on this guy.
That is so dumb, though. Like, why would you do that?
No! He got away with it. That's the dumb part. He got away with it. What happened?
Oh my God.
Like, was nobody watching? This guy literally got into it.
Like, the thing is that some people are really good at, like, blending into the background.
Oh, he was, definitely. Because, like, again, he got away with it so many times.
Hilarious.
He first broke in 1838.
Oh my God. Like, it's just like, he was young. If I'm not mistaken, he was like a teenager.
Probably.
Or not even a teenager, maybe even younger. I don't know.
You'd think that after, like, the 5th or 6th time, when they realized it wasn't a ghost but an actual person, they'd be like, we should do something about the security.
Oh, well, I think he was reprimanded once or twice, but then they never, like, he always got away, like, essentially with a little slap or something. He just
trespassery is bad. Don't trespass.
It's like, why did he do it for
shit?
Like, for just for fun. Like,
the one cool fact I learned about Queen Victoria recently is that
a werewolf, actually.
Not a werewolf, as told by
Boink. It's a Doctor Who reference.
As told by Doctor Who. Not a werewolf.
I watched my first Doctor Who episode recently.
Let me tell my Victoria fact.
Yes, go for it.
She was a crochet influencer.
Yes, she was.
Holy shit, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So she started wearing, like, collars and headpieces and accessories made of lace crochet when nobody else was doing that in nobility and,
this
like,
woman
royalty.
was a trendsetter.
And
I know.
more, it was all Spitalfields lace, which was spun in the Spitalfields area of London.
Yeah.
So she was doing it in an attempt not just to, like, be cool, but to, like,
make it cool and valuable.
Support the English economy.
Exactly.
Oh, well,
she started being, like, painted, like, photographs and paparazzi with, like, crochet accessories and such. So much so that it started, like, being really trendy and cool. And so more people had jobs in that hand art because Queen Victoria was, like,
well, I mean, she's also the reason why women marry in white. If I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
I think she was
right?
the first. She's the reason.
Okay, it wasn't that she was the first person to wear white to her wedding.
But I think she did it, and then it kind of like caught on because of her.
Exactly. So traditionally, up to that point in England and in most of Europe, and I imagine many other places, you would get married in your best dress.
Yeah.
Or something that you would wear to church regularly, right? Because it was meant to be like clean and pristine and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But then Victoria chose a white dress because of the symbolism of the color white, to her, and it became a trend, and people after that decided to wear white to copy Queen Victoria. It's now what we quote today call traditional. I buck against the trend, and if I ever decide to get married, I'm not going to wear white because I don't think it's an old enough tradition.
I agree, but also good on Victoria for setting trends, like being literally first.
She was
like
one
of
of
the
the
first.
19 when she got married.
Yeah,
I don't think she was too concerned about setting a trend as much as she was
as
about
much as
finally
surviving.
marrying the person that she was.
Well, yeah, this
with,
was
so.
actually she was very.
Wait,
much in
did
love with
she
her
marry
husband.
for love?
Yeah, she did. It was Prince Albert, right?
That is unheard of.
Well,
Yeah,
here's
they're
the
actually
thing. She was the queen regnant, so like while yes, it did matter who she married, it didn't matter quite as much in the sense. But like her mother, who was the sister of the King of Belgium, they were trying to like scoot a specific candidate, Albert, their nephew, towards Victoria because they thought that like they could puppeteer a little. There's like politics in the background, but they were pushing her towards specific someone, and she did end up choosing him. She fell in love with him. He fell in love with her.
Lexi says she also wore white to help make the fabric makers who made the white fabric more popular and support British company.
There you go.
See, again, like
everything you do when you're an influencing person, like has an impact on the economy and on a community.
Yep.
It does. I love how this turned into a like.
I mean, we're always
thanks to Lexi, it turned into a.
We're always going to be all about like supporting your local economy.
Oh yeah, like no matter
down
what.
To our bones, what we're about. Yeah. So,
but I love how this is a history lesson right now. It's
no longer. If I could have it my way, every episode would be a history lesson. But apparently, that's not a thing we do here.
Well,
so.
no,
we haven't yet.
Exactly. We could definitely do something like that at some point. I love that.
I'm very interested in the history of knitting circles.
Yeah.
And craft circles in general, because up to a certain time, they were the only safe space for queer women to exist freely. Because there were no boys allowed.
Well, this was when women started, because before it was men. I didn't even know those things. That,
you're thinking about the guild.
Everybody knit, everybody crocheted, everybody did the making.
No, but
but at the professional level, it was predominantly men.
So to belong to the Knitters Guild, you had to be a man.
Yeah. So
So that only means only the men could sell their wares
could make
for money.
Out of it,
which is not okay.
It is nuts and bolts.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's just, I feel like I find it strange that we would live in a world where they would essentially stop an entire half of the population from just contributing to the economy. Or
not necessarily, though, because there were times. Well, I think I was talking about this last time we were at Knit Night, where knitting stockings, specifically in Europe. Well, I think the UK. It was a family business.
Yes.
And families were producing 5 times the amount of stockings as they had feet. And that is what they would use to export and make a living. Yep. So people were so much faster and better at knitting because they would do it.
It was production.
It was a production chain, a production line. Yeah, mom would start the toe and do the increases and pass it on to a 5 or 6 year old who would only know stockinette, so she would just do around and around and around and around, and then she would pass it on to the older sister who only knew short rows, so she would do the toe, the heel, and then pass it back to the child, and she would do stockinette, pass it back to the mom because she was the only one who knew how to cast off, right? And so it was a family affair, and families were selling one by one.
That's the thing, it was out of necessity, right? In their case, it wasn't, I mean, I'm sure I hope they enjoyed it to a certain degree, but it wasn't about the enjoyment of the craft.
Well, there was no Netflix, so...
You can't Netflix and chill if you don't have
that. Is true.
You can chill, but you can't Netflix.
But would you really chill if you were living a subsistence life?
No.
Actually, no. There would be so many chores. You could never chill.
I'm sure they found ways, but it would probably be very different from what we would do.
Yeah, quite possibly. So anyway, what I mean is the guilds didn't get started until much later. People were already profiting from their knitting and their crochet and weaving and such. But you gotta leave it to the man to ruin stuff.
No, but it's true that through histories, there's a lot of things that like started out as men were in control, and then all of a sudden,
how did they knit without Netflix? Excellent question, Andrea.
Yeah, no, I don't think they did.
Excellent question.
I saw a picture of a family knitting, and all the women were knitting, and the dad was reading the paper aloud. So that is Netflix.
Okay. Yeah, it's like listening to a podcast about
that. Or a book or whatever.
It's a lot of pressure, though.
I'm not gonna lie, it's one of the things about the Bridgerton, for example, when you see them like doing needlepoint or embroidery or whatever, and I'm like, they do an entire afternoon of this, like, without killing each other?
I could do an entire afternoon of crochet.
But I mean, like, without doing anything else, I wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah, but you have ADHD.
Okay, fine.
And also, that's what I mean about the knitting circles. Because, like, one single activity might not be stimulating enough. But if you do it in a group with your sisters, with your cousins, with your mom, your grandma,
I guess, 'cause then you
there's
can, like,
conversation going on. People are bringing in cakes and tea. There's other things to do. There's gossip, which makes the world
who's getting married to who.
That's right.
You're sipping the tea and you're sharing the tea.
Hell yeah.
All right, okay, fine. If there's drama, I am here.
Meanwhile, I am one of those people that just sits on her couch in silence, knitting, and like with a smile on her face, like complete silence, doing nothing else but knitting. It's great.
I love that.
Lexi says, absolutely joking. But let's be honest. Do we really want to hear men talk?
No,
more?
we don't. Correct. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely joking. Men should be. Oh, I can't see. Involved in knitting just as much. Seeing knitting and fiber crafts as women's work causes other issues. That's true.
That's true.
Oh, and then Andrea goes, yeah, there's that one neurodivergent on the pianoforte, Francesca.
I love Francesca so much.
Yeah.
She's such a brilliant, wonderful character in the, like, I just love her.
In the books, in the show.
If you lived in the times where there was no TV or other forms of entertainment like the radio, what would be your role in that household? Would you be the one knitting or the one entertaining the people?
Good question. It depends what the entertaining is. If it's just reading, I'm going to fall asleep.
You wouldn't read aloud to your sisters?
I mean, I could, but I wouldn't be able to do it for a long time. That's my problem. Versus knitting where there's movement.
I would volunteer as tribute to that because, like,
you would?
First of all, I love reading. I love reading more than I love knitting.
Here's what's going to happen.
Strong revelations.
I know. Now we're not sure. No.
Here's the thing. I love to read, and I even read aloud to myself at home with the voices. So I would have no problem reading aloud to a group of makers.
The only person
no, I do.
Girl,
I do that sometimes too.
Like I said, I've been reading the Throne of Glass series this month. I'm on Empire of Storm, so book 5 or 6, depending on, what order you follow. And I'm like this morning when I spent too much time reading and had to scramble to get some lunch before coming over here, I was literally sitting there. There's this big intense meeting happening, and I'm doing the voices. I've got the growly pirate voice.
You gotta.
I've got
do
it.
I don't necessarily do the voices, but I do read
my
out
best
loud.
life. I love reading more than I love knitting. Allie 2024. Put that on my fucking tombstone.
Now you're swearing.
And now you're swearing.
Freaking. I said freaking.
Oh, you did.
Okay, it's too bad neither of you like Formula One because this is like a callback and you won't even get the joke. I said hot the paddock. I said hot. Anyway, never mind.
Somebody's gonna get
it.
I made a Gunther Steiner joke and no one.
You know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, going back to like what I would do, I think I would be the person who would I'd start with knitting for a little bit, but then I'd be the one to we need more cakes. Okay, I'm gonna go get them. We need to do that. I would be the running around who I would be the gopher. That's what I would do.
Andrea goes, I wouldn't have med, so my role would be to be the ad-lib radio as I would have a stream of consciousness conversation.
Yes.
And Lexi goes, you would be the first ASMR. That's so true. I love it.
I love it. That is an honorable role.
That is a wonderful role.
We support this.
So 1, 2, 3,
don't you
4,
just love
5,
having
6,
weird
7.
spicy
Thankfully,
neurons?
We don't have to worry about any of that because we don't have to go back in time into portions of society where women identifying people were kept oppressed.
But what if it's a zombie apocalypse and we have no more Wi-Fi, no more internet, no more TV, no more nothing? Then we go back to what
Girl,
do we do?
let's be real. If the zombies
I am not
attack,
surviving
I am
a zombie.
dying first. No.
I don't know.
I'm the cheerleader in a horror movie. Like, I am not making it.
I feel like I would be the one to attack and then get killed, but I would try to attack first.
No.
I'd be like,
Girly Pop, I am Drew Barrymore on the phone in Scream. I am dying immediately. There's a weird note. I want to check it out. Get decapitated.
Like, I want to believe that I would survive a little bit, just because like I've done practice like target shooting before. So, but
first
like,
of all, the zombie apocalypse implies that in order for you to survive, you would have to run. I'm out.
Nope, my knees.
Oh, that's fine. I've done it, so I'm good.
Okay, so you'd survive. We would.
Well, no, but I could be the protector. Is what I'm saying.
Can you get both of us at the same time?
How are you going to protect us if we can't make it where you are because we're too slow?
Also, to get really into the nitty gritty of that, if there was a zombie apocalypse, there would have been a prelude that would have included some sort of giant disease wave spreading across.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
like, who's to say we wouldn't have gotten caught up in that?
That is true.
Maybe.
Look how long it took the world to get over their fear of accepting that COVID was a thing.
Oh God.
Right?
Well, apparently they did the same thing when the Spanish flu came out.
Yeah, of course they did.
Every single time they're like, I don't believe it. I don't want to wear a mask.
The only reason it's called the Spanish flu is because the Spanish newspapers didn't have the same censors on them, and so it was first published in Spanish newspapers, even though it's likely been traced back to like a hog farm in Kansas.
Yeah. It was in the U.S. It was originally in the U.S. It's just.
I would like to romanticize and fantasize that if there was an apocalypse and I were to survive, I would establish a sheep farm, and I would raise sheep for fiber, spin, make fabric.
If there was an apocalypse...
Have a mending business.
If there was an apocalypse and I was to survive, I would go on to find the lost city of Atlantis, because that is the only thing that makes sense if I were to survive an apocalypse. Atlantis would be real.
You'd be rich!
Yeah. Like, more importantly, yesterday, literally me and my partner yesterday were talking about just like our hobby farm and how, like, what we want to do and how we do it, because you don't just like start the whole thing at the same time. You start with like, like, obviously we need the house, but then also like you start with a few chickens, and then you work your way up to like, I don't know, a goat, and then maybe a cow or a pig or whatever, but then you're essentially self-sufficient.
Oh, right? Yeah, chicken is a gateway drug.
It is. Apparently, I met a couple that did that, and they're like, it's the easiest thing to raise chickens. I'm like, are you sure? But apparently it is. Apparently they're not.
If you don't mind the smell.
Oh, yeah, but that's fine. Like, I'm okay with that.
I feel like you mind the smell.
I would mind the smell, yes.
Yeah, but you're a city girl. You don't,
this is
know
why
what I mean?
I will be the city bastion of our future commune. I will hold down the fort in town. Y'all will hold down the fort at the farm. And somebody else will be going back and forth. I'm gonna stay here.
It can't be me. I have motion sickness.
My uncle, he and his business partner own a bookstore in Toronto called...
what a lovely life goal.
I know. It's called The Sleuth of Baker Street, because it started out as a murder mystery bookstore. And in their original location on Bay Street, they owned the building and they lived in the apartment upstairs.
Oh my God.
Right?
Oh, and that is so cute.
So they still have, they've since moved to a new location about 5 or 6 years ago, and same thing, he owns the building, lives in the apartment above it. But I would love to see that happen with our future Café Olen. I would love to live in the apartment above our yarn.
Okay,
me
that's
too.
doable.
Me too.
Yeah.
We can do that.
My goal.
We can do that.
That's my goal. So, that's what I would like to do.
I love that for us.
Yeah. Yep. Well,
so if anyone's watching, Café Olen is taken.
Yeah.
Do not. That was my idea.
100% taken name. So
yeah,
we should probably trademark that like now.
We should.
Yeah. Jared will get on it.
Let's buy the domain too, the internet domain.
Yeah,
while we're at it.
Café Olen.
L-I-N-E.
Yeah. That is like no joke our life.
Yeah, like that's our life, or I want to say pre-retirement.
I would even say no, because
I would like that to be my livelihood.
The four of us who have this like invested life plan, all of us are very lucky in that we work for the government.
Yeah,
and so we have the future financial stability where we can make decisions where upon retirement at or around the age of 60, we can go into a second career that is not something that will only be 10 years. Like we can make it a 20, 30, whatever year-long business that we want. And so there are a few of us who have now become invested in the idea of opening a cafe/yarn shop named Café Olen.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to work towards over the next 15 to 20.
And it stems from the fact that I have this really personal connection with community solutions for sustainability. And so I noticed that there's a lot of thrift stores and there's a lot of secondhand clothes stores, but there aren't secondhand stores for materials for those of us that like to make our own stuff, like thrifted fabrics, like specifically fabric, thrifted notions, tools, yarn.
There's a couple in the States, but they're very few and far between.
Exactly. And I want us to be that connection. I want myself to be that connection in the community where there are fiber materials available that are just like gathering dust in a closet or in an attic, or that folks that pass away leave behind, right? And I want us to be able to recover that and offer it to the community so that this becomes a more affordable, accessible craft and art. Because
and then also
let's be real,
teach
yarn
the
is
skills
expensive.
as well and provide the materials alongside.
And provide a space for people to gather and work on it, where you're not necessarily, you know, like invading like a cafe or a bar like we often do, like unashamedly so, but you know, just
but it's also like to have a dedicated space.
It's also a lot to ask a small business when like 20 of us show up.
And stay for 2 hours.
It is especially on like a Thursday night, which can be like prime audience, like not prime audience, but
which
like
is when we like to gather
for certain businesses. So we want to have a space where, sure, if we did want to take over a bar or a bubble tea place, we can, but we also have a place where we can go other times of the day.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's sort of like one of the foundations of our plan. The other one is just having a space where folks can rent materials and tools. Like not everybody has a sewing machine. At home,
or a spinning wheel,
or if you want to try out spinning, or you want to try out dyeing wool or fabric, and you don't want to like sacrifice one of your pots, you can go to a space where you can rent that material and space for you to experiment. Anyway,
but so
we have plans. Long-ranging plans.
Long-ranging plans.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So we're knitting, by the way. Hello. That was a 30-minute introduction. Welcome to our stream of consciousness.
That's how it usually works.
If you were asking yourself, I thought this was a knitting podcast. It is. You're just having a little look-see through the window of what our lives usually go.
You know, what our mind...
we have been knitting this whole time.
Oh, yeah.
We just don't always talk about just knitting.
Yeah, exactly.
What are you knitting?
Me? Okay, so I think I've mentioned this before where I have a sock subscription that I'm receiving this year.
Oh, yeah.
And
from Fiberweed?
No, from Farmer's Daughter Fibers. This is an indigenous woman-owned business in Montana. I don't want to say... I've forgotten which nation she's from, so I don't want to guess because I don't want to get it wrong. But I do know that this is an indigenous woman-owned business, which is pretty cool. Candace is great. Her color sense is amazing.
Yeah, I love her stuff.
I am knitting a pair of socks with it's the Bighorn sock base, and so these are called the let's cover up all our faces if I can. I don't even know what I'm doing. Okay, I don't even know. Anyway, so there's a little tiny bit of color work at the top. These are called the My Man's Socks by Suzanne. What is her name? Why does it not say on here? Susanna Orthodoxou. I think I said that correctly.
Wow. Cool name.
And I am knitting these again out of the Bighorn sock base from Farmer's Daughter Fibers. This color and the like variegated here is the July color, and then the green at the top is the leftover from January.
I love that you're using your scraps from the month before.
Yeah, well, from many months before. And so these are going to be for my brother-in-law for Christmas.
Right.
I have got, so I'm knitting 6 pairs of socks as part of my Christmas sock knitting. I like to knit my family members a pair every year. And so
you're going on like 3 or 4 years now, eh?
Yeah. So this is 3 of them. 3 of the pairs are done. And now I'm starting on pair number 4. And I have to say, it feels really good to have started so early. I think the first pair I knit were in like maybe February or March.
Oh yeah, you were working on socks when we were on vacation in February.
Yeah, and it was really nice to just like go into it slowly, because in years past I've waited until the fall, later in the year, to start knitting, and then I'm just scrabbling around to do it, and then I don't feel any joy because really that's all I'm knitting. Like, I'm only knitting socks, and then I'm like, I want to make all these other things. So it's starting out slow, and then using the subscription service as the base on which to do it has been really fun, because now I'm actually knitting the yarn that I receive, and it's not just sitting in stash.
Yeah.
And I'm also getting a bunch of this gift knitting out of the way, which is really enjoyable. And then
you're literally thinking about Christmas in July.
Yeah.
I was thinking about it in freaking January when I first started getting them.
So Lexi says, well, first she has me and 6 of my friends have the same commune dream: community vegetable garden, wood workshop, metal workshop, yarn building. Also houses that are eco-friendly and community equipment.
Yes.
So I love the fact that this idea is
it's a micro community, a micro
Yeah,
neighborhood.
this is amazing. Again, sustainability. It's great. And then she asks, as someone who is a very beginner knitter, how hard are socks to make?
So easy.
They are.
Pop.
Yes.
They're
Okay.
so easy.
Here's the thing, Lexi, that I would say. I kind of did the thing where I just dove in. I picked a pattern. There's so many like easy, simple, straightforward patterns online. There's one designer by the name of Tanis Lavallee of Tanis Fiber Arts.
Love her.
It's the trusty toe-up sock and the old reliable cuff-down sock. Those are like, oh, sorry, Lexi.
Oh, my pronouns are they, them.
All right, so...
sorry.
So there you go. So this designer has some incredible patterns. One, the trusty toe-up sock, the old reliable cuff down, and they walk you through step by step what to do. Now, what I would recommend is if you're starting out, don't go with like a super lightweight fingering. Maybe go with like a heavier, like a DK weight or something.
Yeah, something toothier, something
with
grippy.
like a 3.75 millimeter double pointed needle or something like that.
Oh, that might be too big for sock.
big?
What I
don't
would
know
say
how
is
DK
maybe
is.
you want to start with DK socks.
Yes.
A lot fewer stitches. I think it's
Yep.
48 stitches around.
Yep.
You're done in a jiffy because it's like bigger yarn and bigger needles. And once you're comfortable with the construction of it, then you can go down to a fingering weight with like 2.5 or 275 needles, and you can try out different construction methods. Like I, for example, really like magic loop. You like 9-inch circulars.
Yeah.
There's someone on our knit night that prefers double pointed needles.
Almost exclusively,
Carolyn,
yeah.
almost exclusive.
You
Almost
weirdo.
exclusively.
We love you.
You badass. So there's like a million ways to knit a sock, but the recipe is kind of the same for all of them.
And
So
if
I would say
you-
start with something biggie.
If you
Something
think
chunky.
about it too, when I first started knitting socks, I kind of broke it down into the sections. So I was like, okay, first I have to do the cuff. Do I know how to do ribbing? Knit, purl, knit, purl. Yes, I know how to do that.
Then first of all, do I know how to knit?
So really, if you think about it in terms of the stitches required, you need to be able to cast on. You need to be able to do ribbing. You need to be able to do, depending on what heel you choose, slip stitches or no slip stitches.
Yeah.
You need to be able to do increases, so make one left or make one right, or alternatively, because
Short
that's
rows.
if you're doing like a toe up, or you need to know how to do decreases. So knit two together or slip slip knit.
Yeah.
So depending on what you think or what you already have experience doing, like if you know you've made something and it included a lot of increases, then maybe doing a toe up sock is the way to start, because you're doing a lot of increases, very few decreases. But if decreasing is something that you know you can do without thinking about, maybe a cuff down sock is the way to go. There are a lot of very good YouTube channels out there that have step-by-step tutorials on how to knit socks that walk you through every single possible part of that journey, and really just take your time.
There's also, I recently bought this book by Summer Lee Designs. It's called the Sock Project. And what I love about this book is that it helps you make decisions on each section of the sock. So at the end of it, you have made your own quote-unquote pattern, right? So Summer Lee gives you 5 different types of toes, 5 different types of body textures, like foot textures and like motifs and
Different
stitches,
stitch pattern.
5 different heels, 5 different cuffs, and you can choose which one you are more interested in making. The stitch counts are always the same around for your size of foot. So you have a lot of options, but you don't have to pick them all at the start. You can start the toe of one and the body of another and do a different heel if you feel like doing a different heel, etc.
So they say they say, how does it compare to like advanced crochet? I mainly crochet, but I've done some knitting. And then, oh my goodness, that sounds really hard to pick one.
You can crochet socks, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually you can. Yeah,
they're not. They aren't as flexible, but if you don't mind a little bit of a sturdier fabric, you can 100%. Crochet socks in like single crochet or lace crochet. Those are like really easy to make, and the construction of the heel would be very similar to a knitting one, in which you would make a gusset, pick up, or make increases and then decreases for the heel. Yeah, maybe we'll have like a sock everything about socks kind of.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, oh, sorry.
I don't think you understand. You just said that, and my brain immediately went, make socks where you're stopped at every section of the sock. So I'd have like 8 socks on the go, but I'd have like the cuffed on one. I'd be in the heel of the other.
Oh, I see what you mean. So you could show each section. That's actually really cool.
My brain is thrumming. I'm ready.
Yes. For the comment about being it hard to pick one, worst comes to worst. The reason I don't talk as much is because I don't like making socks. I make them once in a while, but I'm here for a while. I like sweaters and tops, so that's what I knit.
That's totally fine.
I like big projects, but the times when I did knit socks, especially when I like for a project or whatever, I realized that I really needed to have the pattern like guidance one step at a time. I didn't want to have choice. I didn't want somebody to tell me, kind of do it this way. I wanted everything had to be explained to me. Everything.
Yeah.
From like, if I didn't have that, I didn't want to do it because I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
So if it's hard to pick one, maybe try to go for a pattern like that. Maybe that would work better. But it depends on how flexible you are as, like, do you prefer having more choice, or do you prefer like more like me where it's like, if I don't know what I'm doing, I need everything to be explained from A to Z, so it really depends on.
Can I interpret?
I need somebody to hold my hand is what's happening right now.
Can I interpret your experience and you won't be offended?
No, of course not.
I feel like what's happening to you in terms of socks is the Donald Kruger effect.
Who's that? I don't even know who that is.
The Donald Kruger effect is like, imagine a chart like this, in which this axis is how much you know about a subject, and this axis is how confident you are about that subject. Mm-hmm. So I feel like when you started knitting right here at the 0, you had no idea what was difficult. Yeah. Yep. So you started by making a freaking long, like tunic size, long sleeve, all over cable sweater.
Mm-hmm.
That was your first project, and you
had no fear because
and it's wearable. I can wear
fearlessly. But then you got better and better at knitting, and you understood more and more about knitting. That the concept of making a sock is like, now you can see all the things you don't know, and it's like you're not confident anymore.
That actually,
the Donald Kruger effect.
That's not offensive. That's just a fact. I feel like that's what it is.
It goes like this, right? Like, as long as you know a little bit about a subject, your confidence spikes. Mm-hmm. And then as you learn more about the subject, your confidence drops, and it never picks up again.
Because you realize what you don't know.
Yeah, it's essentially, I remember somebody saying essentially exactly that, is you realize how much you don't know.
Yeah.
And then it's scary, which is true. Like, I guess, and it's also the fact that socks for me, like, I'm going to be doing one pair of socks for Christmas, just one, because I don't necessarily know that's what people in my family want. But I have a lot of other projects that I know they're going to actually like really want. So I'm starting with that. But eventually I might get more into it. But I do feel like that. Yeah, I think you're right. It could
your
very well
confidence
be that.
is like diminishing because you know so much more now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So my recommendation is
dive in.
Try to dive in. Forget that you know what you know, and just learn it as if it was brand new.
Yeah. Although I do feel like
because what's the worst that happens? You mess something up and you pull it out and you start again.
Yeah. It's literally yarn.
Which is fair.
It's literally
you can unpick it. You can undo it.
That is true.
It's not a finite. It's not like a sewing pattern where when you cut out your good fabric,
I've ruined so many projects.
Cut it out and you can only make it small.
I've ruined so many good fabrics this way, and I think that might be one of the reasons why.
I think you need to start practicing on bed sheets, my dear.
Yes, that's what I do. Like I only make stuff out of like thrifted fabric because I don't feel like I'm good enough to buy the new fabric.
My problem is if I'm not interested in the fabric or the project, I don't want to do it.
That
so
is so,
that
that
all
is
the
so
projects,
true,
all the
yeah.
practice, like when I started learning knitting, do a scarf. It'll be easy. In my head, I was like, no. When I was 10 or 12, my mom tried to teach me, and that's how she tried. She was like, do a scarf. And then within like, I don't know, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I was like, this is boring. And I walked away. And then a few, maybe like, I want to say maybe 8 years now ago, I saw this, I think it was on a picture somewhere, I forgot. And it was the Julie sweater. It was the cable, it's a huge cable tunique sweater. And I was like, I want this, where can I buy this? And then I realized I can't buy it. I have to knit it. And then my stubborn mind went, well, then I'm just going to make it. And then I did. I made a lot of mistakes in it, but they're like, you
were fueled by
you
spite.
Don't know exactly. And I did restart it 3 times, but if you don't know where they are, you're not going to see them. But it was one of those things where I did it out of sheer stubbornness. And because I really wanted that garment. If it had been like another one of those, just do another,
a scarf.
Scarf. I would have said no, because I'm not like, that's my problem with
the pattern doesn't
and it's the
engage
same
you.
problem with sewing, is that if I'm interested in the project, then I'm all in, which is unfortunate for the poor fabric that I'm torturing.
Yeah.
But if it's like fitted sheets or something, and it's not like I couldn't make a really nice garment about it, but I'm not going to be as excited about it because I'm not excited about the fabric.
Yeah.
You see, that's my problem. And it's very much I don't know if it's an ADHD thing or it's just a me thing.
This is the saying that I apply to my own life, and I feel like it applies to yours too. I do all things through spite, which strengthens me.
Yes.
Yes, it's a rip-off of a Bible something or other, but I don't care.
The Bible talks about this? Like,
No,
doing things out of
it's
spite?
okay. I don't know if it's actually in the Bible or if it's just a thing that I've heard a lot at church, but it's I do all things through Christ, who strengthens me. And I, as an avowed atheist,
I do things through
have
spite.
swapped out the word Christ for spite, and I think it is much more applicable to my personal life.
It really is.
Because the quickest way to get me to do something is to tell me that I can't or shouldn't. Which
Oh
is
my
how
God, ain't that
I
the truth?
learned socks. Somebody was like, I don't know if you've been knitting long enough, and I went, watch me.
Yeah.
Okay, if somebody said that to me, I would be wearing them.
Well, no, it wasn't like maliciously. It was
okay.
like I had only been knitting for a couple of years and had really.
Okay,
no
it sounded
clue what I
like
was
she
doing.
literally.
And someone was like, maybe you should try something like step up to it, and I went,
When
I'll make freaking socks now.
When the 3 of us met, none of us had made socks before.
I had made one.
Okay.
I had made half a
single
sock. And
I
didn't
had made
finish
none.
it. And so, as we got a little bit more confident, we decided through Knit Night to make...
Lexi says that their friend and I are very much similar. I appreciate the comparison.
I love it. I feel like, but we are...
Spiteful and grumpy.
I feel like a lot of people do...
Spiteful and sunshiny, thank you. My hair's
Sunshiny!
throwing it. Love it.
Oh my God, but it's so true though. Like, it's not so much that positive reinforcement doesn't work, but nothing lights a fire up my ass more than somebody telling me I shouldn't do something or
that you can't.
That you can't, in some shape or form. Like, watch me.
Well, speaking of things we can do, since we're coming up to very close to 3 o'clock,
yes.
What are you both working on right now?
I have a half-made toaster tea.
More than
my
half?
God, it's so pretty. Oh la la, look at that.
You're going to be wearing that next time we stream.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
so
I am ready. I cast off the first sleeve, which I made a little longer because I wanted it to be a bit more of a, like a 3/4 situation.
Almost to your elbow.
Yeah. Because I find that I always, roll my sleeves up to the elbow anyway, so I might as well make them the size that I want them to be.
Lexi says it's so gorgeous.
Oh, thank
Absolutely
you.
correct.
Thank you, babe.
It's really nice.
And then I'm working on the other sleeve. I'm almost done. And I will try it on and then decide if I want to make the body longer or if I want to keep it the way that it is. But as you said before, it's giving dark academia.
Like, I feel like you need a tweed skirt.
Yeah.
I feel like you need a high-waisted tweed skirt to go with it.
You're so right.
I usually am.
You are so right. Or like a suede skirt.
Ooh.
You are so right.
And like a blazer with elbow patches.
Oh, stop! Okay. We gotta go to the thrift store now.
Maybe not in the midst of a heat wave. That's too much fabric to put on your body.
No, but that's when they are cheap.
Oh,
Anyway,
so
that's
true.
what I'm working on.
Yeah.
And I have a finished object.
You do, that's true.
Which I probably should have brought up when we were talking about socks.
Oh, yeah.
But I have a finished sock project.
Oh, look at that.
Mallory.
they're
You were
so
working on
good.
those last time, weren't you?
You're wearing the other one. That's so funny.
Yeah, because like I wanted to show it like close to the camera, but like this is the wrong size blocker for the
Yeah, it's
sock.
a little loose.
It's a little bit loose.
That's okay.
But I
it's
put
still-
it on my foot, and it fits really nicely. Okay.
So you were doing this project to try out a different heel method?
Yeah. Okay. This is the integrated heel. Yeah. Thank you, Ali.
Free feet pics on the internet, buds.
Free feet pics.
Well,
This is
technically,
the integrated heel, which, as you can see, hopefully,
Here.
doesn't have a gusset,
No.
and it doesn't have picked up stitches.
No, because
No,
this
yeah.
would be where the gusset would be normally, would
Yeah.
be here, but
Yeah.
there isn't. So.
Yeah. It was incredibly easy to make because I'm not excellent at picking up stitches tightly.
Mm-hmm.
I can pick up the stitches and they will be picked up and they will be even, but there will be gaps. And I'm too lazy to go back and fix those gaps. So this heel called integrated, instead of doing a heel flap and gusset with pickups,
Yep.
it does a short row flap. So you never work in back and forth. You just work in short rows. And then it does decreases instead of a gusset.
Yeah.
So it works up so that by the end of the heel construction, you're already back at your correct number of stitches.
So like right about here.
And I'm going to take it off the blocker just so that you can see that it ends up being a bit more of a rounded toe in comparison to a heel flap and gusset. Do you see this? It's a bit rounder.
Right here.
Right here.
yeah.
It's a bit of a subtle, it's a bit more subtle than a heel flap and gusset.
Which really does have like an L turn, kind of.
Exactly. So like I find that this fits my shape of foot quite nicely. It's very comfortable, and the distance between heel and top of foot is very long, which is excellent for me because I have long heels.
Yeah, you have a really deep instep.
I have a deep instep. So yeah, I really recommend it. This is a Stokai Brunei or simple sock.
We'll link it down below
We'll
later.
link it down
Yeah.
below.
Probably tomorrow.
Everything we've talked about today will be linked in at some point.
And I'm pretty sure it's a free pattern.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
the great
beautiful.
the great thing
Love
about
it.
socks too is that there are so many different ways to do like the heel or the toe, which means that depending on the anatomy of your foot, there will always be an option that fits that.
Yeah.
Right?
Like
Like
Lord knows most of the patterns don't fit my feet.
like I have a foot that is really good for a heel flap and gusset, but if I'm knitting socks for say like my mom or my sister, a afterthought heel fits them equally well.
Yeah.
Where it does not fit on my foot at all. So it
No,
really
so like the afterthought heel is so shallow.
exactly. So it really is a good thing to try out and just like experiment with the different patterns,
Different heels, different toes.
different toes. Like there's one toe that's called the anatomical toe, where instead of
Oh, yeah.
having a toe that's like perfectly
It's kinda-
wedge shaped, you
Yeah.
end up with it where it is kind of follows the shape of your toes.
Yeah.
And then on the other foot, you do the opposite, right? So it actually like they fit.
And that's if your toes are shaped that way.
Yeah, you
Because
might have-
mine are more like, I don't know. Anyway, what are you working on?
I'm working on the run sweater.
No free feet. It was hidden behind the logo. It was fine.
Oh, okay.
I'm working on the run sweater from Unwind Knitwear.
Oh, love
Oh, the
Rachel
one that I've
Isley.
been calling Goth Elsa.
So it's a deep purple with
It's beautiful.
some kind of white, pinkish,
Speckly.
and speckles.
Yeah.
So I'm done with the well, almost, because technically there's a little bit more.
Mignon.
There's a bit more to do
Sorry, Lexi.
on the sleeves.
Yeah.
But everything else is done. So I'm
Yeah, you're just
stocking that
finishing
all the
the
way to
bodies.
the end. So
So you're
really,
done the difficult part now. You're
Yeah.
just like smooth sailing from
pretty
now
much.
on.
I mean, until I do the sleeves, because then I have to. There's a little bit more of the pattern, but like.
Do you
not
call
enough
this
to-
the difficult part or the fun part?
the
yoke.
fun part?
Oh, you do? Okay, I call it the difficult part.
I like
same.
it. I
part is
enjoy
one
this
overwork.
part.
Like, I
enjoy it.
cannot watch TV while I'm doing
Oh no,
this.
100%. I usually don't watch TV during that time, but I enjoy it anyway.
Yeah,
Like, I
for
enjoy
sure.
it. But it's definitely like it's my first time doing a pattern like this, and I'm realizing that I am definitely a bit of a tighter knitter. So I have to, like you can tell like a little bit, but when it's
Lexi says that this is their favorite color. What color is it?
And then it's stunning.
I think it's called.
I think it's stunning.
Well, like
Regal.
I want a Negroni now.
I have it in here.
A Negroni spagliato, preferably
with prosecco in it.
And of course, this is
your ball has
yarn.
Fallen.
Oh, it's all the way over there. Yeah, no.
Rolled all the way.
I forgot where. Well, I can add it to the bottom.
It's
the same as this one. It's Alley Cat yarn.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
I think the purple is called like Royal Plum or something.
Jesus, I have things flying everywhere. But yes, it's called Regal, and I can link it.
And it's by Alley Cat Yarn.
Yes.
So local to us.
Does Alley Cat Yarns ship internationally?
I want to say yes.
You might be in luck.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have like everything like Alley Cat makes is such rich colors.
Yeah, and it doesn't bleed.
Soft. I just want to hug it.
It doesn't bleed.
Forever.
I don't know what kind of magic Melissa is doing.
Yeah.
But the colorways
Some
that get
sort of
produced
witchcraft.
are incredible.
It is.
I also like that the contrast that you're using is not just white. It has like speckles of yellow.
Well, this is actually.
I would like to just take a second and say I was the one who picked out the colors.
She did. Well, so
and
the
I will
purple.
take all credit for that.
The purple I chose.
As you should.
Yeah,
I chose.
She chose this. This is the speckle.
It's so nice, and it contrasts, but it also complements the purple. What is going on down there?
Oh, it's stuck in the zipper.
It's too hot. That's what's. It's just too hot.
Yeah, my yarn's not happy.
But while Carine gets her bag of yarn sorted, I would just like to take a second and Lexi made a comment. They said that this is not helping the beginner nerves. Lexi, we have all been knitting for. I mean, I've been knitting for 14 years. You've been knitting for like 20. Carine's been knitting for over a decade.
More like 25.
No,
25?
like eight years.
Either way, we've all been knitting for an extended period of time, which is probably why we kind of seem a little bit more blasé when we talk about things like modifications and making changes and different patterns and new things, is that we have the benefit of those years of experience.
Yeah.
And I imagine it's the same for you with crochet, in the sense that you've probably been doing it for a good long while, and that you can, do all sorts of things that I, as a person who barely knows how to make a chain, could do. So it just
can't crochet to save my life. So,
it just comes with
we need help.
Every other skill out there. It just comes with practice, right?
Yeah,
and the more you try,
the
better you get. And just don't be afraid to make some mistakes. And if it doesn't work and you pull it out and you start again, well, that's just part of the process.
Or you make the mistakes, you keep the mistakes, and you wear them with pride.
I still have the first scarf I ever knit, and it is atrocious.
Oh, I love that.
Does it look like the hungry caterpillar?
Because it's like this, because I didn't know anything about yarn weights, right? I knew absolutely nothing about what I was doing. I was like, I'm going to make a scarf and I'm going to fold it over and seam it up the side so that it's double thick, because I didn't know how to knit a tube. And then I also didn't know how to sew up knitting. So it's like, it looks like a child has just gone in there with a black yarn on a red and yellow. So it's horrible.
It's normal.
But it's a good reminder of where I've come from.
Yeah.
And I think one of the best tips for me that I can give, what helped me a lot, is just understanding that if you don't understand the pattern, YouTube is your best friend.
Yes.
Ravelry is a good friend if it's accessible to you.
Yep. And we are here, and you can ask us.
Exactly. You can ask anybody who knits. You can ask us questions. You can. So there's no, like, you're doing it for yourself, right?
Yeah.
Like, maybe at the beginning you're not, like, if you're like me, you're not gonna necessarily want to like knit for gifts right away, because you want to perfect the art first. So it's not, like, making mistakes is not the end of the world. And then when you the more mistakes you make, the easier or the faster you're going to learn.
And depending on what it is like in your like geographical location, like we have some incredible local yarn stores and craft stores here that have classes, or if not classes,
workshops,
then like supported workshop hours where it's like you come in, you sit, you work
with
on your
amazing
project,
teachers,
and then there's somebody there that can help you if you get stuck. So I don't know if that's something available to you where you are, but for anybody who wants to learn a new skill, like look around and see what kind of resources are available, because you might be surprised. There might already be like an established crafting group or a local store that has teachers in-house already.
If you're in Ottawa, right here, she's the teacher.
But it's just like I personally find things when I'm learning them for the first time to be really scary.
Yeah.
But what I constantly tell myself is that I can lean on the community around me. Because I know that I have the community around me who has those skills.
Here's the last thing.
And it makes it less scary.
Here's the last thing that I'll say about the sock. The first one that you make is gonna be a dud. That's like There's no way around it.
Yep.
So the best thing that you can do to get over your own perfectionism, at least in my opinion, is set out to make a fugly sock.
Yes.
Just say, my goal right now is to make the fuggliest sock I can possibly make. It's gonna be so bad, it's gonna be perfect. That's what I want to make. Do I want to make a good sock? No. I want to make a bad sock.
Yep.
And then in making that bad sock, you're going to first succeed on your objective. Duh. And second, you're going to learn the techniques that you really actually need to learn so that when you make a second sock, it's going to be great.
You're ready to go. Yeah.
My first sock was 2 inches too short and the heel was like comically large. I don't even know how I did that. Like I don't even
so
it was
funny.
I remember putting it on. I was sitting in my room in my apartment and I like held my feet up and I was like literally like you know when you put on a pair of flip-flops and you like flap the flip-flop against your foot?
Oh yeah.
I was literally doing that with the heel of the sock. I was like, this is what I don't even know how I did this. So I ended up I re-knit the sock. I like pulled it all out completely and re-knit the sock and I was cognizant of those errors from the first one.
Yeah.
And then consciously made it longer and made my like stitch count smaller and like everything like that. And the second sock, while still not a perfect fit, actually is proportional to my foot.
Andy says, my first sock was an entire toe length too long and it strangled my ankle. That is too funny.
That is hilarious.
Okay.
Well,
I think we should finish up with our Knitspiration.
Oh, you made that fun noise.
I forgot to put in the noise. We have a little new jingle for Knitspiration.
Yeah, we're going to do it next time.
But I'll give you this.
Maybe that should be it. I like it.
Carine, what's knitspiring you today?
Good question. I don't know. I mean,
I love that you're looking around my
honestly,
house to get
I
inspired.
know, like, what could I get inspired about? Right now, I'm not, I mean, you know what? It's going to sound weird, but I think my inspiration right now is just Ravelry in general, in the sense that I haven't been, so I used to be able to have access when I was at work. I could go on the website and just, but somehow now, since we've updated the website, it's not that it's not accessible, it's that
it's not allowed on your secure networks.
it's not that, because I can still go in, but it doesn't like load the way, like you can't see the images, everything is like I don't know what it is, I don't know what's wrong. The point is I can't see it at work anymore. So now I don't really go on Ravelry that much. So sometimes when I'm at home and I'm like, I have a moment and I'm like, and then I go on Ravelry and then like I see like what's hot right now or whatever, you know.
So fun. I love doing the hot right now.
But that's the thing. I haven't done it in so long because I don't have access to it anymore.
So that's like a little burst of inspiration.
So that's like my little inspiration right now is just going on Ravelry when I get the chance. And then like, because when I'm at home, I don't necessarily think about that or like, because I'm just either knitting. There's also the fact that I'm very invested in the knitting I'm doing right now because it's mostly like gift related.
For sure.
But yeah, so that's my
I love that. If
inspiration.
Ravelry is available to you, give it a look. It's fun to see what people are onto.
Yeah. I haven't added a lot to my favorites up until today.
I've been recently very inspired by not something knitting related, but sewing related, which is a pattern bundle that I bought from Sew Liberated.
I love them.
I don't know where they are based, but they're called Sew, like SEW Liberated, and their patterns are what I can only categorize as goblin core.
Oh my god, it's so good.
They are
feel
so
like they're
good.
a Canadian company, but I'm probably wrong.
I'm not super sure.
But
it's very approachable, like not goofy, but like comfy looking patterns, long lines, billowy fabrics. And it's just very fun, and it helps, move me towards my goal of becoming
they are from Mexico.
Oh, I was so wrong.
Are they really?
So Liberated began as a drafty Adobe house on a street without a name in rural northern Mexico.
Well,
in 2006.
One more reason to like them. They're my patriots.
Looks like it.
Yeah. Qué nerviosa.
Yeah, I know. They are my paisanos. Anyway. I love them, and I want to be a goblin and a hobbit, and I feel like Sew Liberating is helping me get there. So check them out.
Nice. So for me, first of all, I'm gonna very, very briefly flash Ravelry on my iPad. So if you look away for a hot second, I'm not gonna get close to the camera. The queue function in Ravelry is giving me life right now.
Look at you.
Okay? So I do this thing. I do documentation as part of my work life. I love organization. I love knowing what I have, and I love knowing where it is.
I love that about you.
The vast majority, I'd say 90% of my stash is currently logged in Ravelry. And I have been going through recently and trying to assemble like quantities of yarn that could be a garment or a shawl, and then logging them with the queue function of Ravelry with patterns that I really want to make.
Yes.
So that as soon as I get to a point where I'm like, okay, I'm ready to cast on something new, I already know what project it is. I already know what yarn it is.
Because past you has made the work.
Exactly. But I'm also giving myself the grace of like, okay, well, if the number one thing in my queue is not what I want to make something that's like on page 3, I'll knit that. But, oh no, did you
Sorry,
stitches?
yeah, I'm good.
Or if I change my mind and I'm like, oh, okay, well, I had picked this teal yarn, but actually I want to make this in hot pink, I'll grab the hot pink yarn. Like, I'm giving myself the space, but also giving myself the structure, because I am a person who thrives in a structured environment.
Yeah.
Right? I feel so much more in control of myself and of my life and of my choices and of what I'm doing if I have a structure with which to correspond my decision making.
Yeah.
And so having this queue means that I can go all over the map with my choices of patterns.
Yeah.
But I can also already have the yarn slotted in so that when I'm ready, I can just like, cool, I'm ready to go. I can grab it.
It's also nice because if you feel like I don't want to make decisions, the decision's been made for you.
Yeah.
But if you feel like you do, you already have a starting base.
I have a bunch. And then as well, it helps prevent any kind of decision paralysis.
Yeah.
Or if I'm coming up to a season in my life where I'm like, okay, I know I'm heading into a really busy time work-wise. I just want something that is going to be really simple and straightforward, that doesn't require a lot of thinking. I can go down that queue and I already have like 4 or 5 simple patterns that I'm like, we'll pick that one, good to go, on to the next.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's been bringing me a lot of joy lately to kind of take advantage of this creative drive that I have right now and apply it so that in the future when I am maybe struggling once again with burnout, or I'm struggling through a very busy time,
you can benefit from it again.
I can benefit from that organization that was done previously.
Yeah.
So I can hopefully, because there was a period of time in the last couple of years when I was really in the throes of burnout, where I wasn't knitting, I wasn't reading, I wasn't making, and that was like
content.
That was the sign for my family members and friends to be like, something's not right.
Yeah.
And so I want to make everything possible that doesn't happen again. And so this queue function is giving me a way to hopefully create a safety net for my future self.
It's a lifeline,
self-care.
really.
It's self-care.
It's self-care, but it's also so inspiring because there's a lot of projects out there that I may not have chosen right off the bat. Like in the moment, like if I was picking something, because I usually start something new right around the Christmas holidays. I'll usually start a sweater, but I wouldn't pick like an overall cabled sweater because spending time with my family is a lot. I love them. We have fun, but there's so many people, so many things happening.
Yeah, it's overstimulating.
I don't want to be thinking about a heavily cabled sweater. But if I've already got it all picked out, I've already maybe started it a week or two before, and I'm in it, well then it's less overwhelming. Because the decision's already made.
The decision becomes yes or no. It doesn't become which one.
Exactly.
I love that for you.
So yeah, the queue function on Ravelry is giving me an inspiration, and if you can't use Ravelry, I would definitely recommend even just opening like a Word doc on your phone or on your computer and just having like the pattern you want to make and maybe like the yarn that you have in yours. Like just keep a note, like when you see a pattern and you're like, oh, I can make that in this, write that down. Your future self is going to thank you.
I love to leave you guys with this. Planning for the future is self-care.
Yes, 100%.
So thank you for being here and for listening to us talk about some kind of knitting, but also
a history lesson about Victorian England.
We are now equally inspired to make more content for you and to catch you again 2 weeks from now.
Yeah.
So
we'll have a video going up in 2 weeks.
And it's a goodie.
Yes,
and then
it's a good one.
the 2 weeks after that, we'll be back live.
Love you so much. Thank you for being here.
Love
this
you.
is Purl
Bye,
Perspectives. We're going to go turn the AC back on again.
Oh my god, I'm melting.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, Bilbo agrees. You're melting too, huh?